What's up, everybody? Trey Biddy with HawgSports.com, HAWGsports.com. It's the Arkansas LSU Primer Show. We're going to have Glen West come on from Go 24/7, GEAUX 247, and Danny West, of course, to talk a little bit about recruiting and also help us break down this matchup. We're going to take your questions if we got time. All that and more on today's episode of Hawg Sports Live. Guys, a lot of ways to watch and listen. We're on Instagram right now. We're on X. We're on YouTube. We're on Facebook. So plenty of different ways to watch the show. And we're also on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you find your favorite podcast. We are there. Please give us a thumbs up or a like. Just take a moment right now and do so if you haven't done so already. Comment on the video if you like it, or if you don't. Plenty of people do both. And give us that 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. We're currently the most rated and the highest rated podcast out of the state of Arkansas on Apple Podcasts. So really appreciate that distinction. Give us a thumbs up, a like. Actually, there's maybe some true crime stuff or something out of the state of Arkansas I don't know about. But as far as focusing on things that are Arkansas, we're number one right now. So really proud of that distinction and want to keep it up. So if you haven't taken a moment to give us that 5-star review, we'd love to have that. Hawg Sports is 30% off right now for an annual subscription. That breaks down to $627 a month, $75.18 for the entire year. That's a discount of $44.22. The other option is sign up for $1 right now at Hawg Sports. $1 for the first month at Hawg Sports. And the beautiful thing about the dollar deal, you sign up, you check it out. You've been hearing all these things. Well, Trey, I can get all this stuff for free elsewhere. Well, that's how we get you. That's why we do the dollar deal. So you can come and see what we really offer, because most people are like, well, I didn't know it was like this. And that's how we get you. That's how we get you to stay. So you sign up for the dollar deal, and then after a month, you like what you see and you stick around, you go to a full price deal, which is $9.95 a month. But here's the kicker. You also can get Paramount Plus for free for as long as you're subscribed. We're in that CBS Paramount Global ecosystem, so we have access to that. So not only do you get Hawg Sports, you get Paramount Plus for free. You may be already paying for Paramount Plus. So that's a heck of a deal. You're going to get, no matter how you look at it, you're getting something for free, which is normally $100 or so, $117 or something like that a year. So pretty sweet deal. Either way you want to sign up, 30% off or $1 for your first month. Arkansas is currently, this changed just recently. When I looked at it this morning, Arkansas was plus 2.5. That line is down to plus 2 now on Bet Saracen. So money coming in on the Hogs, at least in the state of Arkansas. This was LSU was -9 in the preseason. So this has changed dramatically based on what's unfolded throughout this year. But Arkansas plus 2 right now on Bet Saracen. The money line is Arkansas plus 105 and LSU minus 125. Okay. A lot of interesting prop bets also. I was talking to Randy Rainwater yesterday on Drive Time about all the different prop bets. And if asked it, like, if any of them get rejected and stuff, he's like, yeah, well, this is a little hypothetical and stuff. So, but there's a ton of, there's got to be 25 different prop bets on here on this game. So it should be a really exciting atmosphere. I want to real quick mention my mom. Happy birthday, Mom. 28 years old, as we always used to say growing up. But happy birthday. Hope you're having a great day. She's been in Washington State. Okay, so the injury report came out Wednesday. Of course, it comes out every Wednesday. For those who don't know how the injury report works, it comes out Wednesday at 7 o'clock. Okay, you're required to be, because they can go back and look at the video, you're required to be pretty exact on that. So injury report comes out Wednesday. It's updated on Thursday. It's updated again on Friday, and it's updated again at 90 minutes before kickoff. This is all for gambling. We can say whatever we want about it, but maybe it makes it easier on the coaches just to say he's out or something like that, but it's all for gambling. My hope is this will eventually lead to us opening and requiring more practice availability, because that's been the main thing why coaches close practices down, is because of injuries. They don't want to disclose what's going on. Now, it doesn't tell bumps, bruises, aches, and pains that guys are just practicing through and they're going to be fine to play with. And that's a big difference in this game, and I want to talk about that a little bit. So the Wednesday Arkansas injury update, Rodney Hill, doubtful. That's an undisclosed injury. I believe it's a lower body injury. And out, Jalen Braxton. Oh, that's it. That's the benefits of a bye week. You got 2 things being reported on this injury report. Rodney Hill, doubtful. Jalen Braxton, out. There's nothing about Taylor Green. Taylor Green is playing. If Taylor Green was not going to play, he would be listed as probable, doubtful, or out, obviously. But he's not even listed as probable. So he is playing Saturday. He is available to play Saturday. Now, they may choose not to play him, I guess, but he's available to play. I mean, I guess that's kind of a loophole. Somebody was talking about that on our message board. Wednesday injury report for LSU, probable. Wide receiver C.J. Daniels, he was out for the Ole Miss game. Questionable, wide receiver Chris Hilton Jr., he's been out all year. Now, Daniels had, I believe, 1,000 yards last season, so he would be big for them to get back. Out, we know Harold Perkins is out for the season. Wide receiver Kyle Parker, running back John Emery Jr., who's also, we know, is out for the season. I don't know on Parker. Princeton Malbrew is also out, defensive end. Offensive lineman Kobe Roberts, who's not one of their starters, is out. Linebacker Jake Abita. Offensive lineman Tyree Adams, again, not a starter. And DT Jacobian Gilroy. Again, I don't know. I know the offensive line's got all their starters, and I know Emery's out for the season. I know Perkins is out for the year. I'm not sure on the other guys, but maybe Glenn, when we have him on here in just a couple minutes, can enlighten us a little bit. All right, so I've watched LSU play a couple of times this year. I was at a party during the Ole Miss game, but I watched it as much as I could. I watched a good bit of it. I watched the overtime period. I thought that was a tremendously confident throw by Garrett Nussmeier at the end of the game. I mean, like it was open, but it was not a big window, and he fired the ball in there. That's an emotional home win for LSU. And for the gambling people that we talked about, obviously, the ideal situation, or those, wanting an Arkansas win, know this ideal situation is a big home win in overtime against a tough opponent, big physical game. That would be the ideal situation for the next opponent. And that's what happened. That's what you got for Arkansas. Now LSU has to go on the road against a team that is coming off of a bye week. I think it's also important to note that not only is Arkansas coming off of a bye week, they're coming off the bye week at home. Sam Pittman has a really good record in bye weeks. I believe they had a bye week before the Georgia game back in 2021, but that's the only game that they have lost where they've had a big layoff. Okay, whether it's a bye week, whether it's before a bowl game, or whether it's the first game of the season. Every other opportunity they've had, coming off of a break, not playing a game the week before, I should say, they have won. I think that's true. I did not research that, so somebody may want to correct me in the comments if that's not true, but I believe that's true. So I think that's notable. Coming off of a big emotional win where, you're going to get beaten up a little bit at home, and then having to turn around and go on the road the next week against a wild environment, it's going to be a crazy environment. Like Tennessee was great. I think this is going to be even crazier, especially if things go strong at the beginning. And I want to talk about that too, because I watched them play USC. I watched this game in its entirety in the opener. I thought that LSU outplayed them for 3 quarters and almost felt like they had it won, and then things just unraveled at the end. Now, I watched LSU play South Carolina also. I watched this game fully. I think that might have been an 11 o'clock game, so I think I was able to watch it. Did I watch this entirely? No, I didn't watch it entirely because I had to leave and go to the Arkansas game. But I watched the first half. And what I know, and then I watched pieces of it here and there in the end. What I noticed about this game, South Carolina played this game with their hair on fire coming out. There was so much energy, every play, huge amount of energy. And it felt like they were just stomping a hole in LSU. And LSU was just kind of steady through the whole time. But they were only winning by 3, if I remember correctly. They only had like a 3-point lead. Maybe it was 10 at some point, but it wasn't a lot. And I just felt like, man, they're really outplaying them. They're barely beating them. And that's kind of what I felt like against Oklahoma State when Arkansas played them. I was like, man, they're just stomping them. But they're only ahead by 14. It feels like they're up by 28, and they were only up by 14. And the same deal here. LSU just stayed steady, just getting outplayed, but hanging around, getting outplayed, and then comes back in the end and wins the game, beats South Carolina in Columbia. And I felt like a little bit South Carolina expended a little bit too much energy. I don't come out hype, but I just felt like the first half of that game, it was like every play was just like, just energy, vibrating, running, screaming, hollering. LSU was just kind of steady, and they ended up pulling that out. So I think that's important for this one. I'll give you another example. Think about the energy and how loud and crazy it was back for that Alabama game in 2010 in Fayetteville. Electric, as loud as I've heard it in the stadium before it was expanded, before Texas. And at the end, Arkansas just kind of folded. A couple of interceptions, almost like they outplayed Alabama for 3.5 quarters, and then suddenly Alabama wins. So that's something I think is important. And I don't know if Sam Pittman's bringing that up to his team or something. It seems kind of abstract thing to bring up to your team, so I don't know. But it's important to stay steady like that. And to use a kind of a simile, like in terms of staying steady, OzarksGo. OzarksGo is as steady as you can get. It's constantly working for me. My experience, I don't know what other people's are. My experiences is that I've never unplugged my router modem and plugged it back in again, wait 12 seconds, call. I've never even called them, but I know if I do call them, it's going to be a local person answering because it's a local company. They're not going to ship you off to some call center. But I've never talked to them on the phone other than talking to their marketing people about sponsoring this show, which I'm super proud to have those guys as a sponsor for the show. You can reach out to them at 479-684-4900. It might be the only time you ever have to call them. That's my experience. I called them when I moved over 3 years ago. Later, they became a sponsor. Or you can reach out to them at OzarksGo.net/hawg. That's HAWG. And yeah, use the promo code BIDDY1, BIDDY1, and you can get a free month if you're not subscribed, if you haven't been with them before. So OzarksGo.net, super fast internet, reliable internet. I mean, that's the thing I can say about it. I use the multi-gig, which is, I don't even know what it is. It's 1,500, 2,000 megabits per second. I don't even know. I mean, it's just flying. I think the gigabit is probably good for most people at home. That's going to, you're not going to get bogged down. Your bandwidth's going to be fine and all that stuff. And they offer several different tiers. Check them out, OzarksGo.net/hawg, 479-684-4900. All right, Glen West. We've had Glen West on a couple of times before. He's the tallest man in the 24/7 Sports Network at a solid 6'10". He's a big dude. He's coming up here. He's flying out of New Orleans, so he'll be up here for the game. And I forgot to tell him when he answers the phone here, he's going to be live on air right now. Whoop. Hey, Glenn, you're live on air. I forgot to tell you when you answer, you're going to be live, so you're live right now. Appreciate you hopping on the show. How you doing?
I'm doing great, Trey. Thanks for having me on. How are you?
I'm doing really good. Really appreciate you coming on. I know you said you were packing up. You're headed to New Orleans. You're flying out of New Orleans, right?
Yes, sir. Yeah. I got my family that lives in New Orleans, and so I'll stay with them tonight and fly out first thing in the morning.
We get a really good deal through, I think it's Breeze Airways, but when the LSU game pops up and it's in Baton Rouge, they have a direct flight to Baton Rouge from Northwest Arkansas that has been a game changer. Wow. Yeah. Wow. I keep losing you. Hold on a second. All right. Gotcha. Sorry about that. So let's just jump right into it, Glenn. We do our behind enemy lines thing, so I'm not going to stray too far from that with you. But I know the injury report came out last night, and we talked about that a little bit before you came on. I'm not 100% sure on some of them, but it seems like there's a decent number of injuries. I know a couple of guys like Emery and Perkins, the guys that are out for the season. I know the offensive linemen that are out are not starters. But what can you tell us a little bit about the injury report and not only who's out, but maybe who's coming back?
Yeah, so LSU, there's a couple key ones here that you got to look at, and it's probably going to be at the receiver room where you're focusing on CJ Daniels. Is a veteran receiver that they picked up this year from Liberty. He missed the Ole Miss game because of a knee issue, but it was a minor thing. Apparently, he's showing real progress and has been practicing this week. So he was listed as probable, so he'll be good to go. for that game against Arkansas. He's somebody that LSU really needs to get back into the lineup. He's a very explosive receiver, can do a lot of different things for him, and has been a pretty consistent target for Garrett Nussmeier so far this season. So it'll be nice to get CJ back in the lineup. And then the other one to probably keep an eye on is Chris Hilton. He's been around the program for a while now. Unfortunately, whether it's been just buried on the depth chart or just injuries, he just hasn't been able to see the field very much yet in his career. And he was a former 5-star coming out of Zachary High here in Baton Rouge. So he's a very highly touted former recruit. Just unfortunately has been plagued by the injury bug this year. Has been dealing with a nagging leg injury. So he's going to be questionable. Sounds like he's close to a return, but we've also heard that he's been close to a return for several weeks. So I think it's really just going to be on how he feels and just what the situation is game time with him on whether or not he'll be able to go. But other than that, all the starters will play. This is not a injury report that, is going to be littered with a lot of starters. So it should be a pretty even, pretty big full strength group for LSU here as we walk into Saturday.
Glen West joining us again. You can follow Glen at Glen West 21. That's 1N GLENWEST 21 on X, and he is the senior writer over at Go 24/7 GEAUX. So Glen, I'll tell you what I like about Garrett Nussmeier. He looked like the future of the program. We saw him back in 2021. Was that 2021? Yeah.
Yes.
He came in. I guess if I remember, Max Johnson wasn't performing very well in the first couple of series, and then Nussmeier came in and played pretty well for a true freshman. Was still able to redshirt that year, playing in only 4 games, but I think that was the most action that he saw all year. But then Jaden Daniels comes in, new coaching staff comes in, and the guy sticks it out. He sits behind Daniels for 2 years and doesn't hit the transfer portal, doesn't panic, and now he's a junior. He's having a really good year. He's passed for almost 2,000 yards this season, 18 touchdowns. But he's also got a heck of an arm and gets rid of the ball. Doesn't take sacks. Just your thoughts on him from like character, leadership, and just his physical attributes, what he brings to the table.
Yeah, from a character and leadership perspective, he's class personified, and you would expect that. He's the son of a quarterbacks coach, so he grew up obviously learning the game and learning how to develop good relationships with his teammates. And so you can really see that every time he gets to talk to the media. It's really hardly ever about him. He wants to put all the praise on his teammates. And so he's just been a really, really just solid, steady player for LSU this year. You mentioned it. His story is pretty unique in terms of, you don't find too many guys that were as highly recruited as he was that want to stick it out for 3 years and is okay with being a backup for that long stretch. But he loves LSU. He really loved this program. He has family that's from the Lake Charles area, which is a couple hours west of Baton Rouge. So he's grown up around, wanting to be an LSU Tiger. And when he had that opportunity out of high school, he jumped at it, and he's waited patiently for his turn. And to your point, he's had a really nice start to his season here. I mean, 18 touchdowns, 6 interceptions, completing about 65% of his passes. Somebody that, like you mentioned, gets the ball out quick. He gets a lot of his guys involved. He's very confident in his arm. Let's just put it that way. He'll put the ball in some risky situations every once in a while, and sometimes that's to his detriment. But a lot of the times, like you'll see, if Arkansas fans have had a chance to go back and watch any of the LSU Ole Miss game, that 4th and 5 throw that he made in the end of the fourth quarter to Aaron Anderson for the game-tying touchdown, you don't get many better balls than that from a college quarterback. And so he's somebody that can make all the throws. They're still trying to, I think, find some balance in this run game to really kind of help elevate this offense to even new heights. But Nussmeier has been a big reason why LSU sits here at 5-1 at the halfway point of the year.
Glen, when I was in college, there was a guy there named Kevin Falk at LSU. And I remember he got hurt one year, and they brought this dude in named Cecil the Diesel Collins. This would have been like late 90s. And I just remember thinking, who is this guy? And, just through the years, you've got, Joseph Adai, Jeremy Hill.
Fournette.
Yeah, Leonard Fournette. Darius Geis. I mean, it's just like one guy after another. And it's been since Tyrion Davis-Price in 2021, since LSU's had a 1,000-yard back. And he was 1,000-yard, like 1,000, basically.
Yeah.
But under Brian Kelly, they have not had a 1,000-yard running back. Obviously, Jaden Daniels ran for 1,000, but they haven't had a 1,000-yard running back. What is it? What's going on? Because this LSU offensive line is outstanding. I know John Emery was very highly recruited, but he was injured in the first game. But his career wasn't anything like what we thought it would be.
Right.
Is this freshman Durham? Is he the guy? Is he emerging as the guy? And what do you think is the reason for LSU's lack of production in the run game?
Yeah, so Caden Durham has been kind of the most explosive back they've had this year. We thought coming into the season that sophomore Caleb Jackson would be that guy. He had some really nice moments as a freshman where he broke off some big runs and a limited role, and you could really see that if he kind of progressed the right way, that LSU could really see be leaning into him. But it's been Durham that's taken advantage of the opportunities that have kind of come up with him, that have kind of come up since the start of that South Carolina game. And this run game has been really tough to figure out. I think it's been tough to figure out for us as a media, but it's been tough to figure out, I think, inside the locker room as well. And it's been, I think, a combination of things. I think they tried so hard this offseason to be more of an outside zone team, a team that runs a lot of counters, a lot of misdirection, and kind of wants to get these backs on the perimeter. They just have not been able to open up those holes up front in the run game, and then those backs have not really consistently been seeing the holes when they have been open. So it's been a combination of everybody. I mean, Brian Kelly was asked about it again this week, and he essentially told us that it's on everybody. It's on the quarterback. It's on the tight ends for not picking up, for not opening up those outside zone blocks. It's on the offensive line for not consistently being able to open up running lanes. It's on the backs for not seeing the holes, and so it's a little bit of everything, and they're still trying to figure out the best way to be explosive in that department. I think it comes down to a couple things. I think it comes down to timing. I think it comes down to those guys just working in unison, and that's been kind of a little bit of a struggle for this group so far. They're an outstanding pass blocking team, and they are that is exactly what they want to lean into here with Garrett Nussmeier behind center. Not the most mobile quarterback in the world, so they've really had to keep him upright and have done a fantastic job of doing so. The next step is trying to get something, consistent with the run game, and they're still trying to find ways to do that.
So, flipping you to the other side of the ball, this defense has done an outstanding job at getting to opposing quarterbacks. Arkansas has not done a very good job protecting their quarterback. They did a little bit better against Tennessee. I don't believe Tennessee is a high sack team, but a really good defensive line. Brian Kelly fired the entire defensive staff, right, after last year, and they brought in Blake Baker from Missouri, who was at LSU as linebackers coach previously. What has he done differently with this LSU defense, and why have they done such a good job at getting to the quarterback?
Yeah, he has brought an attack-style mindset to this defense that was sorely lacking last year. I mean, these guys are much more physical. They're much more aggressive in what they're trying to do schematically, and I think it's something the players have really bought into. Last year, this was a team that was really passive in their coverage. They were passive and trying to not allow the big explosive play, and Baker's kind of just said, to heck with that. We're going to go after the quarterback. We're going to get pressure. We're going to make him throw good balls with hands in his face. And LSU, to their credit, has done a really nice job of getting consistent pressure on quarterbacks. They did a really nice job in the second half against Jackson Dart last weekend. Braden Swinson has been a absolute terror in the SEC so far. I think he's up to 6 or 7 sacks in 5 games. He's just done a really, really nice job for them, setting the edge, setting the tone. And then the Whit Weeks, Greg Penn combo at linebacker has done a nice job of creating some havoc as well, getting into the backfield for some big plays when they need it most. Savion Jones, Gio Paez, Dominic McKinley, Gabriel Relaford. These are all kind of younger players who are now starting to find their way, starting to find their footing in this defensive line as well. So it's been a real team effort here. Bo Davis and Kevin Peoples are 2 of the best coaches in the business on the defensive line, and they have done their jobs this year to probably an A-plus effort. I mean, they are getting the most out of this group that they possibly can right now, and LSU sits here at number 4 in the country in sacks, top 25 in tackles for loss. So that's been kind of the the niche of trying to of their identity on defense has been getting after the quarterback, creating negative plays in the run game, and they've been doing a real solid job of doing that so far.
Kevin Peoples is a blast from the past. He was at Arkansas back under I believe under Petrino back in
Wow.
Yeah. He's a really good recruiter. I always liked talking with Kevin Peoples. So
great technician too. We talked to Braden Swinson this year, and he's raved about Kevin Peoples and his development of the talent that's on the roster. He's done a really nice job.
Yeah, I'm not sure what his connection was with Petrino. I just remember because I think he was at Arkansas State also. But anyway, yeah, really liked Kevin Peoples. Okay, we'll get you out with this, Glenn. How do you see it playing out on Saturday?
Yeah, I mean, this is going to be a physical matchup. I mean, obviously, I'm sure most of your fans have read just the close matchups that this has been over the last 4 years.
Mm-hmm.
3 points have decided each of the last 4 matchups. I would expect something similar to happen this weekend as well. What we know about the SEC through 5 weeks is that no game on the road is easy for these teams, and LSU is going to be facing a pretty daunting task going into Fayetteville. I do like LSU's potential to keep moving the offense in the passing game. I would say that if there's a strength of this LSU offense, it's been pushing the ball downfield, consistently moving the chains, and as of recently, they've done a much better job of punching balls into the red zone when they get kind of inside that 15-10 yard line range. So I like LSU in this game, 30-24. I would not be a bit shocked if this score was flipped the other way. I think that there's going to be a game here on the schedule for LSU on the road where maybe they're favored by a little bit, or maybe they're kind of expecting to go in and win, and that they don't get the job done because it's a good road team and it's a good effort from that home crowd. So I think that Arkansas is going to give them a real big fight. I wouldn't be surprised if the Razorbacks pull this one out, but I do think the way that LSU has learned how to win games in the fourth quarter over the last month or so can give them the edge in this game. And so if this is a fourth quarter game, if it's a one possession game going into the final 15 minutes, I do like the Tigers being able to find a way to claw this one out.
Come by and see me Saturday if you see me first.
Yes, sir. Absolutely. I'm hard to miss. I'm up there in height in case you guys haven't noticed. But so I absolutely will do. Thanks, Trey.
Okay. All right. Appreciate you, Glenn. Thanks for coming on.
Yes, sir.
All right, everybody. That's Glen West. Again, follow him at Glen West 21. Does a really good job over there at our LSU site on 24/7 Sports Network. We're going to bring Danny West on real quick. I actually kind of think maybe it would be a little flipped. I'm thinking somewhere along the lines of 28-24 Arkansas if Taylor Green is completely effective. Now, I'll just say this. I watched the guy after he came off the field when he was hitting the knee against Tennessee, and I watched him over on the sideline. I've got my binoculars out, so I always use the binoculars primarily for injured players to make sure the snap and to make sure we're blaming the right person on the field goals, make sure the snap and the hold and everything is good on field goals. So, but I was watching Taylor over there warm up, and he's doing some juking, he's moving side to side, he's dropping back, and he gives the trainer a thumbs up. I guarantee you in practice, they're not saying to Taylor Green, because what I've read on bone bruises is they don't get better unless you rest them. They just get worse if you don't rest them. So I guarantee you they're not going, okay, plant as hard as you possibly can on that knee, or throwing something at him and making him move unexpectedly. I guarantee you they're not doing that. So that is the question that I have when it's live bullets out there and he tests that knee for the first time and he plants, or somebody's coming at him and he has to swim outside the pocket or something like that. How's that knee going to react? If the knee is fine, I like Arkansas on this one. I just think all the intangibles that we talked about earlier, the home crowd coming off of a bye, LSU's very physical game, and Arkansas's defense. I mean, guys, like you look back at this defense, I guarantee you can't find more than 14 points in regulation that wasn't on the defense in that game against Oklahoma State. You obviously can't find more than 14 points against Auburn. Okay, you can't find more than 14 points on the defense against Texas A&M. If you remember, the Texas A&M scored 21 points. Arkansas also fumbled at their own 10-yard line. You obviously can't find more than 14 points on the defense against Tennessee. This defense has repeatedly given up 14 points. Okay, the issues for Arkansas have been, and guys, you remember how mock Sam Pittman was after that Texas A&M game? He's like, we're a pretty good football team when we don't turn the ball over. Yeah, they are. A lot of it's because of that defense is going to hold up for them. So the defense, if you can give the defense some help and don't turn the ball over, don't put them in awful field position, don't have special teams mistakes, then, you can win this game. No question. All right, we're going to go to Danny here. Let's see if we're not having Connor on today, so I'll go over some of the keys to victories and all that stuff here in a minute, but we're going to have Danny on first because we had Connor on. I'm thinking we might switch it up a little bit and have Connor on Monday. I don't know. Maybe let me know what you think on the comments below. Have Connor on Monday and Danny on Thursdays leading up to the game and all the recruiting stuff, just because I feel like we're just kind of cramming the show in a little bit, and we never even get to questions ever. So we'll see if this format works a little bit, and but also, have those guys on for a little bit more extended time than we normally do. For those of you who don't follow Danny, you can follow him at Danny West 24/7. He is the HawgSports recruiting analyst, but does so much more than that. Helps us break down the games, does game day coverage and all that. And he's not feeling very well, and he's had parent-teacher conferences, so we weren't able to get the studio show going yet, but that is coming. I promise you guys. It's not here yet. So, Danny, you sound terrible. How you doing?
They don't want to see me today, Trey Biddy.
Yeah, those allergies.
I got a mossy oak cut off and pajama pants.
Yeah,
and I feel like straight doo-doo. How are you?
I'm doing okay. I don't really have allergy issues anymore. I used to have them as a kid growing up, but my wife's dealing with them right now. But for whatever reason, these last 10 years or so, I don't have, knock on wood, I just don't have allergy issues. So
you need to find out what that reason is.
I know.
ASAP.
I know. I really do, and market it, put it in a bottle.
Please.
Danny, you've looked at this matchup a little bit, but we're going to talk about recruiting first. Obviously, there's visitors coming in. You've released the visit list on HawgSports. But just tell us a little bit about some of the key guys to watch out for that coming in this weekend.
All right, we're going to start in the natural state. Word is Carius Kern going to be on campus.
He said,
this weekend.
Danny, you said last week you talked to him. He said he's only coming to LSU games. He's not coming to any more Arkansas.
That's what he said.
So
that's what he said. And I want to say I haven't confirmed that with Carius yet, but that has been reported out there that he's planning on being back at Arkansas this weekend, which is, as you just said there, completely different than what we heard last week from him.
A guest of Arkansas.
Well, that's what we're trying to. That's what we're trying to narrow down here.
Mm-hmm.
I would assume so, Trey. I would think so. I don't think he's just going to buy a ticket and show up and pull for.
It's
LSU.
a hard ticket. It's a hard ticket just to get.
It'd be a hard.
My wife's been struggling to find. She needs one more ticket for her.
Oh, man.
We got family coming in town this weekend, so
I got you. But yeah, that would be the biggest headliner. Of course, if that happens, opens up so many possibilities. Of course, the game itself is the opportunity for Arkansas to kind of crack that door open again.
Yeah.
And we've seen it. It's hard to, and I'm not saying anything about Carius because he's a young guy, and I'm sure there's a lot that came at him in a short amount of time. But this thing has kind of had a lot of twists and turns, So I tell people, man, it's just hard to slam the door, no matter what he says until he signs. You can't just slam the door on a guy like this. Even today, now after the fact, even if he signs, you can't really close the door because we're going to talk about a guy probably in this show, Landon Jackson, went to the same school. And after 1 year, he figured out, man, I probably should have gone to Arkansas. So you never know.
Danny, we see this all the time. Like, and people say something like, you said you were going to do this. You're a liar, but like, it's true in the moment. Like in the moment when some kid puts on Twitter, 1,000% committed, or whatever they do, that it's in that moment, that's how they feel. and things just change sometimes. And I'll say to all the people that say stuff like commitment just doesn't mean what it used to. Commitment means exactly what it's always meant. Because if it meant that no matter what, you're committed to something and you're never going to change, then we would have all, married the girl that we started dating in 8th grade because we were committed.
Lord have mercy.
I mean, right? Like you, the girl you dated in high school or whatever, your first college girlfriend, you would have married, you would have married her, and you didn't. So commitment does mean exactly what it's always
for that. Didn't Garth had Garth had unanswered prayers?
Yeah.
There's a lot of dudes going to be playing that song here. You say that.
That's right. That's right. What else can we expect this weekend, Danny?
Moving down the list, 2025 4-star wide receiver that we've kind of heard throughout the week is probably going to end up coming to the game Saturday is Cameron Sparks. Now, he's a composite 4-star. He had a top 6 earlier this year. He called it a final 6 in February. And we're talking about programs like Georgia, Michigan. I think I can name them all. Georgia, Michigan, Miami, Florida State, Auburn, and Tennessee, I want to say. So a lot of heavy hitters there earlier in the year, a lot of combined national championships too, if you look at those names. But, man, this is just that time of year, Trey, where Arkansas is still looking for a receiver. Now, they've got a pretty good group, I think, so far with Kamari Williams out of Florida. Obviously, Quentin Murphy playing quarterback at Parkview. He's expected to be a receiver. And then Antonio Jordan, 6'6", 230. We'll see. Maybe he transitions to a tight end at some point. But for right now, that's 3 wideouts on paper, right? But they still want some more, and they're swinging for the fences on some of these guys. Cameron Sparks, obviously a big-time offer list, 6'3", 205. That'd be good to get in there with him. But, you think about the Texas game coming up in about a month. There's another guy coming in, Kelshawn Johnson, committed to Texas A&M right now, out of Hitchcock, Texas. Obviously, we've talked about Kelshawn for months now. He came in for an official in June and committed to the Aggies in July. And even then, it kind of felt like Arkansas is still going to be in this thing, And I know it sounds crazy. We talk about NIL and today's climate and everything. So the old school mentality is, well, that's a Texas kid committed to A&M right now. And, they've got it going again. It's probably going to be tough to flip him. But, man, sometimes you just you got to forget that old way of thinking. This is very much possible for Arkansas to flip him. And I'm sure in a few weeks we'll be talking about him more. But to get guys like that on campus, to me, my point being, Cameron Sparks is a big-time dude. Kelshawn Johnson, another big one. And we're getting here towards the end of the year talking about a couple of 4-star type guys. Good for Ronnie Fouch. I think I've talked about him a lot, but he's been involved on some really good ones so far this year. And we'll see if he can come away with one of these 4 stars. But those are really 2 headliners this week. Obviously, you always expect your committed guys within the region and within reason to be on campus anytime they can. I totally skipped over the official visitor, Gavin Garrison, 2025 tight end out of Chico, California, home of Aaron Rodgers, for people that like that sort of thing. But it's also home to Miles Fishback. Miles Fishback, the Arkansas assistant quarterback coach, I believe is his title under Bobby Petrino. And Miles and his brother both, his brother coaches at New Mexico State. They both offered this guy, Gavin Garrison, 6'7", 240 tight end out of their hometown in California. He goes to Pleasant Valley High School. But this is a kid who's committed to San Diego State. He's got a brother already playing for the Aztecs there. And Arkansas offered about 10 days ago. And he told me, soon after the offer came, I'm probably making a trip there next week. Lo and behold, he is. And it's not just a trip, it's an official visit. So
you got to bring those guys from California in on officials. You got to pay their way. So. Yeah. It's also
regardless of game, kickoff time.
Yeah, it's also home to Jordan Rodgers, obviously.
I'll be dog. Funny how the world works.
Yeah.
That's funny.
Speaking of NIL, Danny, I was talking to Alex Harper over at Arkansas Edge, and they've got another program coming out. I don't know if I'm supposed to say, so I'm not going to say what it is, but it is something that these guys are doing a great job listening to fan advice, and I know this is something that a lot of fans were kind of clamoring for, that I think will be a good program. But that's supposed to come out, I don't know, today or tomorrow maybe. So I don't know if I'm supposed to say, so I'm not going to say. So,
but it feels like they're moving in a good situation there, doesn't it? I mean, it seems like for the last 2 or 3 months, every time it's brought up or anything that's passed on to me has been positive. And there for a while, it seemed like a lot of negative going on.
Yeah,
when
Kyle and Alex are
was
doing a good
discussed.
job. Yeah, and they're not the only people over there, but they they have the QR codes and stuff like that, so nobody can say anything about that anymore.
I like it. I've been griping about it for 3 years.
I did a meet and greet over there at Hogtown. We had a lot of people come up and took some selfies or ussies or whatever, and stuff like that. But they're doing the work, and they got I think the $10 a month deal that they're doing, because they were really pushing that $50 a month deal. But I feel like that they kind of hit a sweet spot with that $10 a month donation deal. So
absolutely,
they're definitely working to find a lot of good ideas.
Nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
That thing adds up too, man. One of the first, I'm not taking credit for it, but I always thought initially, early brainstorming when this first came out, I always thought, how about some workshops around the state where you get into some of these more rural areas where they're not, transparency goes a long way, especially when you're talking about people's money from small towns. They want to know what it's being used for, exactly where it's going, and how it's going to benefit the hogs, So, man, whoever's in charge over there, pat them on the back. I think they're taking a common sense approach to it, or seem to be over the last few months anyway. I give credit where it's due, and they seem to be improving.
I always say this, like I picked a profession that, makes a really good living. Just to put an example out there, I know the 7,000 lawyers in Arkansas aren't all hog fans, right?
Yeah.
But if you could get 7,000 lawyers to give $1,000, it's like $7 million, right?
Not bad.
I'm just saying, like, I'm not saying like all lawyers, but people that are well-to-do and could come off $1,000 a little easier.
Sure.
That would be something. And then you got other people that are doing something that's just as important, to give $10 a month or something. That's something. You can get the 50-50 raffle going with Bet Saracen and the other casinos in Arkansas. That's another thing. That would be a huge one. It's still alive. Yeah, it's not dead. It's still alive. But that would be transformative for NIL in Arkansas. So, but that's, I guess, for the politicians to work out. Danny, you've looked a little bit about this LSU offense and how it matches up with the Arkansas defense. What have you found?
Yeah, I would obviously expect a 3-point difference in the game for one or the other. 4 in a row. Let's start with that. 4 years in a row. If they can make that 5, it's got to be one of the greatest oddities in college football lately, I would think. Man, that's crazy. Now, 4 in a row haven't gone Arkansas's way. You asked me about this particular game. I think they want to have the same type of recipe that they've had against some of these other teams, shorten the game, play keep away when possible. But, of course, they've gone against, 3 redshirt freshmen starting quarterbacks. And this one, obviously, Nussmeier, a lot more experience. He's going to get it out quick. Probably a lot like Oklahoma State, where you just can't touch him. You can't get back there; it's gone, and you got to rely on open field tackles. And Arkansas is capable of doing that. I'm taking a long way around it. If you're asking for my opinion, I'll say this about Nussmeier. I know for people that watched that incredible game they had against Ole Miss, that you saw him go 22 of 51, something ugly, right? But
yeah.
Some of those 22, buddy, were Sunday throws. I mean. I don't know how many people in college football could have made them. So he's got that. He can make every throw. But, man, I know you're not asking for my prediction. I'm just filling the hogs on this one. It's hard to walk out of that stadium 2 weeks ago and not predict Arkansas, regardless of who else is coming back in there.
Yeah.
If the fans show up like they did and Arkansas doesn't have this bye week hangover that we've kind of seen a lot in the SEC this year. Bye weeks are not going the way you would expect. You see what Arkansas did to Tennessee coming off a bye. Missouri went to A&M coming off a bye and got smoked. South Carolina lost at home to Ole Miss coming off of a bye. And Kentucky just lost at Vanderbilt with a bye week. Now, on the other hand, it's we just saw LSU coming off a bye against Ole Miss, and they got a win. Sam Pittman being 3-0 after a bye week the last 3 years. He's also 2-0 in bowl games, which kind of the same principle, right? Coming off of rest and preparation in that scenario. So I'm liking the Hogs, buddy. I don't know what you've said so far on the show, but that's where I'm at with it.
Danny, I feel like this show has been good for your nasal conch.
Am I sounding better?
Your conche? Is that how you say it? It's like a shell.
Yeah, that's how I always said
it. You sound like it loosens some things up in there from where you started. All right, brother. Well, we'll see you on Saturday.
All right, man.
All right.
We'll see you there.
All right. Appreciate you. All right, everybody. That's Danny West. Again, follow Danny at Danny West 24/7, Hog Sports recruiting analyst. But as you can see, he does so much more than just that. All right. What's next? We'll look at Connor Goodson's keys to victory again. We had Connor on for an extended period of time on Monday just because there was so much going on with basketball and the tip-off tour and stuff, and he was at both events. So if you want more information on how that event went, you can go to hogsports.com, read his breakdowns on it. It is VIP, so you do need a subscription, or you can check out a more abbreviated version that he did on the show. Let's see. So here's his – we always do the same keys to victory. It's always penalties, turnovers, special teams, injuries. Always. And if you go back and look at any Arkansas game, win or lose, I guarantee you if Arkansas is in the win column in those categories, they usually end up winning the game. If they're in the losing column, it's obviously the opposite. So we do 5. So it's always those 4. And he breaks down, the different aspects of it. But for 5, he's got seeing red. And Saturday will be a red out. There's going to be a lot of coats. So I don't know how great the red out is going to look, but we'll see. The stripe out did pretty good. There was a lot of orange zest sprinkled in the crowd, but those people all left disappointed. So, yeah, he's talking about the crowd. I mean, that's the 5th one. Just have a great home environment. It's going to be a fantastic environment. Like, if you can get a ticket to this game, you need to get a ticket. And I talked about that a little bit on the walk and talk after the Tennessee game, how disappointing it is. And, to see Arkansas lose and you just come away disappointed and upset over and over again. I've spent all this money and stuff. It's not like it was the Chad Morris era when the game was over in the first quarter. You at least got to watch football, but you still left disappointed. But, man, when they beat Tennessee, number 4 in the country, and you're in that stadium and the people are rushing the field, even if you're not one of the people that rush, you're just in there and you experience the game and you're watching from the stands, it's hard to put a price on that as far as experience. I saw people out there with their sons and daughters, the experience those kids have. I mean, it's when you talk about how expensive it is, I know it is. Trust me, I know it is. But, man, when something like that happens, it's hard to beat. And there's the opportunity, at least, for it to happen against LSU. It's certainly not guaranteed. I think it's going to come down to the 4th quarter, just like a lot of you out there. As we know, this has been a 3-point game each of the last 4 years, which is wild. Maybe that gets broken up this time. I don't know. But odds are the home team is going to be involved in a tight contest. It's rare that the home team just gets their doors blown off and the game is over. So no matter what happens, I think we're at least going to be treated to a game that's going to, give you a reason to stick around to the 3rd quarter. And on the best end of that, Arkansas coming out with a win. All right. The burning question, is Taylor Green good to go? That's a huge one, obviously. We talked about that a lot. Can the Hogs slow down the Tigers' aerial attack? These guys throw for 2nd most yardage in the SEC this year. Garrett Nussmeier has 1,918 yards, something like that, 18 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. So they really air it out. They do a good job of protecting him, too. As we mentioned, 2 sacks for a team that has thrown it more per game than any other team in the SEC. How Arkansas fare in the trenches, both sides of the ball. I think one of the more intriguing aspects of this game is how Arkansas's veteran defensive line matches up with LSU's veteran offensive line. It's a really intriguing matchup. Landon Jackson, former LSU player, who's been at Arkansas 3 years now. That's a really interesting aspect of this game. Both sides of the ball. Arkansas's offensive line, which has performed better against an LSU defensive line and a front overall that does a really good job at getting to the quarterback. Not just the fact that they average 3.5 sacks a game, which leads the SEC, but all the pressures, the hits, the move in the pocket, all that kind of stuff, changing the launch angle, all those kinds of things that they force other quarterbacks to do. How important was the bye week? How important was it for Arkansas? Obviously, it's a big question too. You don't want to over-prepare, so you want to also make sure you take some breaks for the players. One of the questions I asked Sam Pittman on Monday was, what about the scrimmage? I know you guys probably scrimmaged the young guys. They didn't do that this year just because injuries just piling up and wanting to make sure they get healthy because it impacts everybody. So they need a healthy scout team too. They need healthy backup players who play on the scout team. Sometimes you look to a reserve to help you out. So they decided not to scrimmage the young guys, which is something I mean, every year I can remember you run scrimmage type work with those young guys during the bye week, and they just didn't do it this year. Wanted to stay healthy, and that's coming off of a fall camp that was really very physical compared to other recent fall camps. So they were very physical in fall camp and have kind of taken it off of them a little bit. And this is part of the year too, where you start taking it easier in practice. You just kind of have to. Teams are different starting, the second half of the season versus how they are in the first. Can Arkansas make history? Arkansas has not beaten a top 10 team twice in 1 year since 1965. They've done it twice. They did it in 1964 also. It's pretty crazy to think about, but yeah, those are the only times they've done it. 64 and 65, pretty good teams. 64 team won the national championship. So anyway, down in depth. It's a VIP article on HawgSports, HawgSports.com. It is a very long breakdown that he does a good job of putting into kind of bite-sized pieces for people to read. So go check it out, HawgSports, HawgSports.com. Also check out our friends at OzarksGo, OzarksGo.net/Hawg, HAWG. Enter the promo code Biddy1, and you can get 1 month for free if you're a first-time user to their service. You can reach out to them at 479-684-4900. And when you talk to them and you ask them, they're going to tell you that you can get their service. I think they're expanding into Texas, but they're in Oklahoma. They're in Northwest Arkansas, north of the tunnel, really. They're expanding in different parts out in Rogers and everything like that. But when you talk to somebody and you say, hey, are you available in my area? They're probably going to know what area you're talking about because you're going to talk to somebody from this area. They're not going to ship you off to some other call center or something. It's a local company. Again, I say this over and over again, but it is the truth, people. I've been with them for over 3 years now. I have never unplugged and replugged my router. Never once. I've never had a blip. The only time we had an outage is when they notified me, hey, it's midnight tonight, something like that. We're going to have an outage for maintenance. Like, they gave me a heads up. It's I don't know. I haven't had an issue. I like to play the college football game. I got a PS5 just so I could play that game. On my end, I've never had connective issues where the game shut down. I've had other people that I've played, your opponent is experiencing network issues. I haven't had those issues. So big fan of OzarksGo. It works. If it doesn't work, it's probably because of something you're doing. I'm just saying, it's probably something on your end. And you're probably going to have problems with all internet services. I've had 3 other internet service providers. They've been the best. Okay. We've run out of time for questions again. We did answer questions on Monday, so maybe Monday we'll gear it a little more toward question asking. But I want to thank Danny West for hopping on, Glen West. Those guys provided great insight on LSU and, of course, Danny with Arkansas recruiting. And, thanks to Connor, who wasn't with the show today, but he provided a lot of this content, too, that we went over. All right, everybody, I've said it. I think 28-24 Arkansas, and if Taylon Green is basically 100%, obviously nobody's 100% right now, but 100%ish, and the knee doesn't give him a problem. If he can be mobile and cause problems running the ball, then I think Arkansas will have enough to beat LSU on Saturday. So Josh Pate had a great point. Excuse me, I'm losing my voice. Josh Pate had a good point the other day about how this could be a turning point. He called Arkansas a fringe college football playoff team. I mean, they do get their tough opponents at home. I mean, it's crazy to think about, like, there was no chance people were saying that they could beat Tennessee. I didn't say that, but a lot of people said there's no chance, and they beat Tennessee, and now they're a fringe playoff team. I don't know. Even at 9-3, are they a fringe playoff team? Pate thinks possibly. Who knows how things are going? I think there's a lot of parity in college football now with the NIL and transfer portal impact. So who knows? But they do have a chance to beat LSU on Saturday. It's not something that anybody would guarantee. Obviously, they're, depending on where you look at, 2.5, 2-point underdog in this one at home. But it's going to be a great environment. Arkansas has got to protect the football. That's what it comes down to, guys. Protect the football. Don't have special team gaffes. Get lucky in the injury department. Taylon Green. All those things always hold true. People come up with all these keys to victory. Guys, if it's not those 4 things, I don't know what it is. especially when you're talking about SEC ball. All right, everybody. Appreciate you joining me. Next time you see me, I'll be walking around, headed to my car. I don't think we're going to see a field storming if Arkansas wins. It's $500,000 this time. And I did that in the last walk and talk, so I don't think I might shoot it if it happens, but I don't think there's going to be a field storming for another top 10 win if it happens. But hopefully it'll be a happy walk and talk, but that's the next time you'll see me. So thanks for joining me, everybody. Thanks to Glenn. Thanks to Danny. Thanks to all of you. And leave us that 5-star review. If you're hopping off right now, throw us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. Throw us a thumbs up or a like on YouTube. Subscribe to the channel. A ton of people watch regularly watch this show and they're not subscribed to the channel. It really helps if you just hit that subscribe bell button and hit the notifications alert. It's not a bell anymore. It's just, I think when you subscribe, you have the option of selecting turn on notifications or something like that. I'm not even sure, but do that, whatever it is. All right, everybody. Appreciate you joining me. This has been Trey Biddy with HawgSports.com. And if I can find my outro, I'll end the show.